Hi, you're watching Just the News. I'm Amita Balachandra. Our top story is Delhi's air pollution. The Supreme Court today has asked the centre and concerned states to take a decision on which industries, vehicles, and power plants can be stopped for the time being to curtail Delhi's air pollution. It also asked for the reconsideration of work from home policy. Now, this comes after Solicitor General Tushar Mehta told the court today that farm fires only have a 4 to 10% share in Delhi's severe pollution. The centre's affidavit cites a scientific study to say that only 4% in PM 2.5 in Delhi is because of agricultural burning in winters and 7% in summers. PM 2.5 describes suspended particles that are less than 2.5 micrometers. Now, to this, Justice D.Y. Chandrachud said, and I quote, "Now the cat is out of the bag. Farmers' stubble burning is only contributing to 4%. It's insignificant," end quote. Now, the court in turn pulled up the Delhi government for lame excuses and passing the buck, and also said the capital's air pollution was a crisis. Now, the court also directed the centre to call an emergency meeting of states and other authorities on Tuesday to decide on immediate steps. Now, there was something interesting that developed soon after. Vikas Singh, the lawyer of the petitioners, later accused the centre of trying to protect farmers with an eye on upcoming state elections. Now, the centre, he said, made a wrong statement that the contribution of stubble burning was less than 10% to pollution in Delhi. Now, AAP has alleged that after the centre's own affidavit said stubble burning contributes 40% of the total pollution, it took a U-turn and said the role of farm fires is only 4%. And in an update to the Lakhimpur Kheri violence, now Uttar Pradesh has informed the Supreme Court that it will appoint a retired judge to monitor the investigation in the Lakhimpur Kheri case. Now, remember, the violence took place on the 3rd of October, in which 8 people died, including 4 farmers who were allegedly mowed down by vehicles in the convoy of Ashish Mishra, the son of Union Minister and BJP MP Ajay Kumar Mishra. Now, the bench also observed that the special investigation team constituted by the UP police to investigate the case needs to be upgraded as it consists mostly of officers in the grade of sub-inspectors from the Lakhimpur Kheri region. Now, the bench also asked senior advocate Harish Salve, who represented the state of the UP, to circulate the names of IPS officers of UP cadre who do not hail from UP for the inclusion in the SIT. The next hearing is on Wednesday. Also in the news now, comedian Munawar Faruqui's show has been cancelled in Goa after the organizers reportedly faced pressure from right-wing vigilantes. Now, his show was scheduled for next week in Panaji in Goa. The Hindu Janajagriti Samiti had in a representation to the state alleged that Faruqui should not be allowed to go ahead with the show as he, and I quote, made vulgar jokes about Hindu gods, end quote. Now, according to Hindustan Times, the organizers LVF Comedy have confirmed that the show has been cancelled after police officials told them that they anticipated a law and order problem if the show was held. Previously, remember, Munawar's shows were also cancelled in Mumbai. Meanwhile, the centre has announced 2 ordinances to extend the tenure of directors of the Enforcement Directorate and the CBI by up to 5 years. Up until now, the tenure was only till 2 years. Now, the ministry said that the ordinances are being promulgated by the President as the Parliament is not in session at present. Meanwhile, former Maharashtra Home Minister Anil Deshmukh has been sent to 14-day judicial custody in the alleged money laundering case by a special PMLA court. He was arrested on the 1st of November. Former Mumbai Police Commissioner Parambir Singh had alleged that Anil Deshmukh had directed suspended police officer Sachin Vaze and others to collect 100 crore rupees from bars and restaurants in Mumbai. Moving on now, 2 women journalists who were detained on Sunday for reporting on recent instances of alleged religious vandalism in Tripura were granted bail by the Chief Judicial Magistrates Court this evening. Now, Samruddhi Sakunya and Swarna Jha, both writing for HW News Network, said on social media that they visited different parts of Tripura for 3 days for ground coverage on reports of vandalism in a few religious institutions last month. Senior advocate Piyush Kanti Biswas said, and I quote, "The judge has signed the order. The court has said prima facie it is of the view that there is no reason not to grant bail. The court has imposed a condition of a bond of 70,000 rupees and to appear before the police when summoned," end quote. The lawyer said allegations of communal hatred leveled against the journalist weren't found in the FIR. He called it an example of arbitrary power of the police. An update now on COVID numbers in the country. India has reported 10,229 new COVID cases in the last 24 hours. The good news is the number of active cases have dropped to over 1.35 lakh as of Sunday, the lowest since June 2020. Now, Kerala, in the meantime, reported 4,547 new COVID cases in the last 24 hours. On to business news now. Petrol pump owners in Haryana are holding a 24-hour strike from Monday, which is today, from the 15th of November, to protest against the centre's move to reduce excise duty on fuel prices. Now, they say that they have been facing loss due to this decision. If you remember, the central government had recently reduced the central excise duty by 5 rupees and 10 rupees per litre on prices of petrol and diesel respectively. Following this, the state government also reduced VAT and fuel is now cheaper by 12 rupees in Haryana. According to PTI, Palvinder Singh, State Vice President of the Petroleum Association, said, and I quote, "We demand the government to hike our commission and reimburse losses suffered due to sudden cuts in excise duty. Therefore, we demand our reimbursement on loss," end quote. Also in the news, according to data from the Ministry of Commerce and Industry, the wholesale inflation across the country rose to 12.54% in October. The wholesale price index grew by 10.66% during the month of September, while the WPI for August was revised to 11.64% from 11.39%. Now, the WPI in October 2020 was at 1.31%. Now, let's take a look at news making headlines across the world. Austria has ordered to place 2 million unvaccinated people in lockdown from today. This comes after record infection levels and growing pressure on hospitals. According to the BBC, Chancellor Alexander Schallenberg said, and I quote, "We're not taking this step lightly, but it is necessary," end quote. What does this mean then for people who are not vaccinated? That they will not be able to leave home generally, but for a limited number of reasons, which is like working or buying food and for essentials. Now, the unvaccinated were already barred from visiting restaurants, hairdressers and cinemas, but we will now not be able to go out of home. About 65% of Austria's population is fully vaccinated. Also in the news, WHO's Director General has slammed the uneven distribution of COVID vaccines and called the distribution of COVID boosters a scandal as poor nations are struggling to get first shots. Now, WHO Chief Scientist Dr. Soumya Swaminathan said that WHO previously set a goal of vaccinating 40% of the population of every country by the end of the year, but more than 100 countries are currently short of that target. Moving on, Nobel Peace Prize winner Malala Yousafzai has said that she is concerned that Taliban's block on girls' education in Afghanistan might not be temporary. Now, in an interview with the BBC, she said, and I quote, "I'm afraid that this ban that they have announced right now, that they're calling temporary, might not actually be temporary. We're calling on the Taliban to immediately allow girls to have access to their complete education. We're calling on G20 leaders and other world leaders to ensure that girls' rights are protected in Afghanistan," end quote. On to sports news right now. Australia has defeated New Zealand by 8 wickets in the T20 World Cup 2021 final to win the men's T20 World Cup for the first time. Now, New Zealand put up 172 for 4 in their 20 overs, the highest ever first innings total in a T20 World Cup final. Australia, in the meantime, chased down the target in 18.5 overs. It was Australia's second men's T20 World Cup final. And one piece of good news before we wrap up this bulletin: two brothers from India, Vihan and Nav Agarwal, have won the 2021 Kids' Rights International Children's Peace Prize for tackling pollution from household waste. Now, their initiative is called One Step Greener, which is all about segregating recyclables and organizing pickups for trash from thousands of homes. Now, the inspiration, they say, for the initiative came after the collapse of the Ghazipur landfill site in 2017, which killed 2 people and led to a spike in pollution. That's a wrap on this bulletin. Thank you so much for watching.